Hi and welcome to Kilobits. I'm Ben and we're speaking to Sam today about his new game, Dream. Now, Sam, can you tell me basically what Dream is and how would you describe it?
Yeah, we always try and describe Dream as a first-person exploration game. So we really wanted to try and reward people for actually exploring the environments, and we do that through story and through actual progression. So you might find items that help you progress further in the game, and then there are a lot of narrative elements, but we try and sort of build on that exploration more than a lot of games do, as we sort of see that as our niche.
Right. Okay. So I mean, what kind of genre would you place the game?
That's a hard question. It's what a lot of people ask us, and we sort of have to make these comparisons with games that are already out there. So there are a lot of puzzle elements to the game, and there are also some horror elements. But like we say, we really are trying to go for this exploration feel and want that to be sort of the sole sort of thing that drives the game.
Right, so not kind of really being led where to go, just let to go where you want to kind of explore really, and that kind of push you forwards through the environment and through the story. Now, I mean, is there a story to it?
Yeah, so it's quite narrative focused actually. The general plot is you play as a character called Howard Phillips, who's just graduated university, but now he doesn't really know what he wants to do with his life. It was a means to an end.
Right.
So he goes into his dreams and introspects into himself to try and find out who he is and what he wants to do.
Oh, okay.
So while you're actually exploring the dreams, you're sort of finding out about yourself, and that's how we try to handle the character progression.
Oh, I see. Okay, so you basically learn more about the main character as you're going through the game, and his kind of backstory. So, I mean, is there any kind of link between this character and any of you guys at all, or is there with the story kind of just coming out of university and things?
Yeah, very much so. So this was the general game was actually started by our lead artist called Lewis Bibby, and he really liked this idea of exploring in dreams and loved games like Yumi Nikki.
Oh yeah.
So we sort of wondered why no one had done a game like that in so long. So that was our jumping off point. And then sort of some of the main story coming about of what you want to do. I went through a lot when I was in sixth form in college. Like I really sort of, I tried to do some music and that sort of failed. Then I really wanted to get into film, and I tried to do everything at once.
Yeah.
And then I finally actually sort of decided to do something, and then carried on with that. And now obviously, hopefully, gonna have a success in that.
Yeah.
But,
so it's kind of like trying to find a kind of direction in life, really. Is that right? Kind of like a kind of story based around that. It's based around your kind of experiences.
Yeah. So everyone says you should sort of write what you know and make what you know, and at this point in our life, I think it is something that we've all gone through, and we sort of hope that we can share that with other people, maybe to guide them, or maybe it's just a nice story to tell.
I mean, what was I've just I'm playing the game as we speak, and I've just entered the kind of the hub, as it were, the white kind of place. I mean, what was the influence for that? Was there any kind of theme behind that? The kind of very pixelated.
Yeah, so that came from a few places. One was the other two guys, so Lewis Bibby, as I mentioned before, and Ash Sidebottom.
Mm-hmm.
They're both really good artists, and I'm not so hot on the art.
Yeah.
So when it comes to making game assets, you have sort of different maps, what you apply to them, and I didn't like doing any of that, so I liked just going with block colours.
Yeah.
So I made this white room, what was sort of in that style, and to be honest, it looked nice, but it didn't really fly with the rest of the game. So then those two took that on board and actually made this thing what looks nice. And then when it comes to the actual style, the way we've worked it into the story is you go there first, as those are like the building blocks to your dreams. So
right.
Say where he wants to go, like he builds it up. So we tried to make it, this cube aesthetic.
Yeah, I mean it's a very nice look to it. It does look like the shadows are kind of in negative as well, which is a very weird effect on everything. It's a good kind of a good kind of look to it, and I was just wondering kind of where it came from. So it was originally just a kind of a level that you'd looked at and designed, and then they kind of took that artistically forwards then.
Yeah, and we've also, in my original level, it was pretty much like a box room. I think we've showed it one or two places, so if sort of people did go look at sort of old footage, they might see it, but it sort of seemed quite boring and bland. What we've tried to do now is really add depth to it, so there are sort of these pillars will go up all the way into the sky, and one of the main reasons behind that was when we support the Oculus Rift, we really want that sort of sense of depth for the player. And also just generally it makes it more fun to explore around those pillars and actually sort of see what's in the world.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, the first time I came in here, I couldn't really, I kind of got a bit lost around it all. But it was kind of still a good experience, kind of exploring this new space, which was very alien in a kind of a way. So it was a good kind of shock to the new world. I'm just going to go through one of these portals that you go through, and that you say there's 3 different areas in the game. Is that right?
Yeah, so the version that we're sort of giving out to backers on a website at the minute, and the version you're playing, there's only the one area, what's the main desert.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the first area, and that's sort of how the progression goes. So you go through the desert, and then when you go through there, the next area sort of unlocks like you would have in a sort of any game, really.
Right.
But there are those 3 larger areas, what are sort of more dense and more of the actual story, and then we have side quests inside there, what people can go off, and they're like sort of little side dreams, what are a bit more surreal.
Right, okay, so kind of more kind of odd fashion, because I did notice that although there are strange things happening, it's a very kind of a very normal kind of feeling environment, the desert with the rocks and everything. It kind of all pans out very much like it would a normal world, rather than a complete abstract feel of the hub that you first start in. So it's we're just coming out in the desert in this bit. Now, I mean, obviously the story has multiple endings, is that right?
Yeah.
Do you know? Is it a spoiler to tell us how many, or what in the game kind of dictates which ending you go to?
It would probably be a spoiler if I knew, but we don't. Well, at the minute, we sort of have a number in mind, and we have sort of these endings that we want to do. But in some ways, we're still sort of in a discussion about sort of the amount. But yeah, there's definitely going to be multiple endings, and all what goes into that is how much you explore, so the things you actually find, and then sort of that character building, because like I say, the story is about you finding out about yourself and finding out what you want to do. So obviously if you explore your dreams and find everything that's in the game and get the best possible ending, then you're going to be really satisfied, and he goes on to maybe have a successful life. But then if you sort of rush through the game and don't really take any note of the story, you might get sort of a bit more of a lackluster ending.
Right.
Maybe he doesn't go on to do that he wants to do. And something what actually inspired that was, while we were writing sort of the main sort of outline of the story, was when Mass Effect 3 sort of hit.
Oh yeah.
And so many people were sort of either some people loved the ending, but so many people were disappointed with the ending.
Yeah, of course.
And we thought, as we've got multiple endings, how could we actually sort of harness some of that disappointment?
Yeah.
So maybe if you do get a bad ending, it's not a bad ending in the fact that, say, the sort of character dies or you turn out to be evil or anything like that. We actually wanted it to be a bit more of a lackluster ending.
Man, this place is big. I'm never going to find anything useful.
I've just hit a point where the voiceover kind of kicks in. It does remind me a lot of Dear Esther and maybe Thomas Was Alone. Were those influences on the game at all?
Yeah, we always get comparisons to Dear Esther, obviously, and that's a great game, and we sort of know people at the Chinese Room and love what they do.
Yeah.
But when we started, if anything, we're probably going to go in more towards that direction.
Yeah.
And that was before we knew what Dear Esther was. It was before that was out. And then we feel that they did such a good job of that we actually wanted to bring it back and make a game that's more gamey, that maybe does have a larger audience and will bring sort of more traditional gamers towards like exploration games.
Yeah. Okay. And you said about what was it called? Yuki.
Yumi Nikki.
Yumi Nikki, that's the one. There's another game that was mentioned as well on some of the research that I did, which was LSD. Was that a PlayStation game?
Yeah.
Where you do a similar thing. That game was based on the dream diary of one of the developers. I mean, did you do anything similar with this? Were there any dreams that you've had that you've incorporated into this?
Not so much, because even though the character's based a lot on us three. We sort of more wanted to see what the character was going through.
Right.
So at the start, we obviously have this big open desert, and it's quite empty and barren, and we sort of chose that because at this point in time, the character doesn't know what they want to do. They are sort of lost and they're alone. And so we wanted to try and get that feeling across. And then we feel like we've done that as well in the environments for Act 2 and 3. But when it comes to the side dreams, they are much more like LSD. Like they are sort of, I suppose, a bit more balls to the wall.
Yeah, surreal kind of
surreal moments. We haven't shown any of those off yet, but we're sort of looking forward to. We'll probably be showing some off over the next, I don't know, 2 or 3 months.
Yeah, I mean, the release kind of aspect of it, with regards to the kind of the announcement and the success of the Greenlight, how did the Greenlight affect the kind of production of it? Did it kind of push you forwards, or?
Yeah, that was a massive shock to us. So at that point, when we went on Greenlight, we'd probably only been working on the game for about 3 months. So it was obviously really, really early stages.
Yeah.
So at that time as well, we were probably going for a smaller game with a much earlier release date.
Yeah.
And then because of such the buzz around it, and we got greenlit, I think it was in a matter of around 2 weeks, and all this kind of stuff, it did push us on to then make the game, if anything, we wanted to make originally.
Yeah.
So
a much bigger kind of thing.
Yeah. So we put the release date back by quite a while. Well, obviously upset some people, but I think they understand that if it's going to be a better game, then they can wait.
Yeah.
But yeah, it really did push us, and it pushed us then really to go on to things like Eurogamer and just to generally look a lot more into the press and business sides of things, instead of just thinking this is more of an indie game that we want to make for ourselves. Like, this could actually be a product.
Yeah, I mean, adversely, did the Kickstarter not succeeding affect you at all in an opposite way?
Yeah, very strongly. Like, we after that, so this was probably around mid-September, early October, we'd been greenlit and we're sort of all really on a high, and we started talking to different publishers who had got in contact with us, because now obviously we needed some more money as it was going to be a much bigger and better game. We talked to the Indie Fund, who obviously helped fund Dear Esther, and they're all great, but sort of that didn't work out, and these different things didn't work out. So really, when it came to Kickstarter, that was our last chance. Like, we were thinking, like, if this doesn't do it, then we're going to have to give up on this game that we want to make and maybe go to a smaller thing.
You mentioned Eurogamer. Are you going to be going to any other events, or have you been to any other events?
Well, currently we've been, when it comes to money, we've been living off the stuff what people have been giving us by obviously donating to the game on our website. So when it comes to obviously hiring out booths and things like that, they cost a lot.
Yeah, of course.
So we haven't been to any other events yet, but we're looking at going to Rezzed, and we're looking to go to Eurogamer again this year, but we'll be part of their left field collections and things like that. So these are free areas for smaller companies to show their game.
Yeah.
But we're also still trying to get funded, so then we can obviously do a lot more things like marketing and maybe go to other parts of the world to show the game. Like, we'd really like to go to Gamescom, because obviously that's sort of more an adventure game place, and so we really want to do more of that stuff. But as at the minute we're talking to different people about funding, we're looking to get onto different services to sell the game to help fund the development of it. It's just sort of all up in the air at the minute, but hopefully over the next month or so it will be cleared up, and we'll actually have definite plans of how we're going to promote the game.
Yeah, okay. If you had the chance to, would you have done anything different with the game, or with the release of the game?
I think the main, sort of the biggest thing that springs to mind is the Kickstarter. And the thing is that we didn't know at the time was that you should never ever have a Kickstarter in December because of Christmas.
Yeah, of course.
And a lot of people have told us that afterwards either they went through the same experience, or they just said we were outright stupid and we should have just waited a month. So it's just things like that. Like, also a lot of people tell us that they think that if we ran one now for the budget we needed, we'd probably be successful. But then it's sort of like, at this point, retreading old ground.
Yeah.
Like, I guess if worse came to worse, that's sort of where we'd end up. We'll try again. But say it were to fail, then I don't know if we could go around a second wave of that.
Yeah. It's taking quite a hit, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I mean, obviously you described yourself as a small team of students. I mean, can you tell us some more about your team and yourselves?
Yeah, so the three of us here, so the three who founded the company, myself, Lewis Bibby, and Ash Sidebottom, and we've sort of gone with it from day one and built it up over time. We've also got Jonathan Keith, who does the voice for Howard.
Yeah.
And all the stuff that again's in there at the minute is all just placeholder stuff.
Whoa, doesn't look too inviting down there. Who would even build something so unwelcoming?
We're really looking forward to actually getting his dialogue recorded properly.
Yeah. Okay. So that's not the final voice in the game then.
Yeah, no, not by any means. We've also actually just got a new writer on called Dawn Sidebottom, who's actually Ash's mum, and she's a novelist.
Oh, brilliant!
And at the time, we felt that we could actually write the game because we've wanted to write before in sort of different professions, but really when it came down to it, we didn't have enough time and we weren't just skilled enough. So we've got her on board.
Right. Okay. So it's going to be refined and kind of tweaked as it goes on.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, I mean, the obviously, what made you decide to make the game? What was the initial thing?
So, like I said, Lewis was working on it as part of a project at university, and he really liked this idea of a open exploration game where you find secrets, and how there weren't any games like Community and LSD sort of out anymore. And then me and him had worked on games in the past together. So when he said this idea to me, I really, really didn't like exploration games.
Right.
Like, I was one of those people who thought they were just boring. So you just walk around, like, where's your gun? Where's the puzzle element? Like, sort of,
yeah.
What am I doing in this world? So then I sort of took it on as this challenge of how to make an exploration game for the mainstream and for people like me. Like, how can I make one that I want to do?
All right, brilliant. Yeah, I've just got to the bit in the game with the computer screen, and obviously you've added into that some kind of hacking elements and command lines and things. I mean, is that going to be prevalent through the game? Do you do it on a more than one basis, or is it just in this part?
No, that's actually. I'm glad you picked up on that. That's one of the areas that we really want to try and tell story.
Yeah.
So we try to build up this narrative through the environment. But obviously, in some ways, that's quite hard, because especially when we're in like a desert or something, not these billboards and posters around, sort of giving you feedback about the environment. So we wanted something that could go through the whole game and also actually appear in the reality. So there's a computer in the house as well.
Oh right, yeah, I didn't see that.
So then you can explore through the computer, sorry. And go through sort of the files in the recycling bin and maybe look through the characters' emails.
Yeah.
So that was actually something that we sort of took from Deus Ex.
Oh, right.
Because Lewis is a massive fan of Human Revolution. And I really like it, but as a game, the stealth was great, but I'm not a massive stealth fan. I thought the shooting was sort of, I know it maybe not done as best as it could have been, but then when it came to exploring the computers and finding out people's passwords and hacking terminals and stuff, I absolutely loved everything to do with that. So we brought that into the game, and like I say, we use it to tell story and to really help you like explore the world, but maybe not actually through walking around, explore the world through different means.
Yeah. So the login screen on this one is basically with a kind of logo of your HyperSloth. Is that the logo of your kind of development company?
Yeah. So we put in loads of Easter eggs and sort of silly references to things like that throughout the game, and yeah. So the operating system used on the computers, the Hyper OS, was just obviously a reference to our company, and it has the logo and everything.
I guess it can't hurt to try turning the lights off.
The game that me and Lewis actually originally worked on together was called Distressed Robot Labour.
Okay.
And there's a robot in the desert. It's sort of in the junkyard, if you've seen it. And if you go up to him, then Howard sort of says, "Oh, I remember I used to sort of play that game as a kid," and that was from our original game. So it's all just sort of silly things like that, just throughout the environment.
Yeah.
Really.
I'm just typing in containment test to see what that does on the commands. There we go. Just to see if I can activate those side puzzles. You obviously use the Unreal engine on this one. How easy was it to use, and why did you choose the Unreal development tools?
We love Unreal. We all sort of think it's really, I wouldn't say easy to use, but very natural, like the way a lot of things work through different like flow charts and things like that. So they've got a great system called Kismet.
Okay.
So it lets us get away with a lot of programming, but none of us are programmers. So everything what's actually going on in the game's through Kismet. So it's through flow charts. So it's, if you do this, it triggers this event, and then sort of it goes through to here. So that was one of the main reasons for choosing the engine. It's also just because it's so pretty.
Yeah.
It's a really nice looking engine.
That was something I did notice instantly, was the corona effect from the light flare. The sun flare was absolutely brilliant, and the focusing you've got, the kind of out of focus effect in the distance was really quite beautiful. It doesn't look like an indie game, and was it the Unreal Engine that kind of really helped you do that? I mean, would you have been able to achieve the same kind of quality otherwise?
To be fair to Lewis, a lot of it was him. But usually when we tell people it's the Unreal Engine, they always say, "Oh, that's why it's so pretty," and it's like, yeah, that helps a lot, but I know it is some of his skill.
Yeah.
But yeah, we wouldn't have been able to do it in any other engine, I don't think. We played around with Unity beforehand when we were choosing an engine, but I sort of personally see Unity as being a programmer's engine. Like, that's something that they can get their teeth into.
Yeah.
When UDK is much more of a sort of a designer-driven tool, and it lets sort of designers do what they need to do.
Yeah. Okay. So the future. I mean, you mentioned the Oculus Rift. How are you going to integrate that into the game? Is it going to be? Are you going to use the head tracking part of it, or?
Yeah. So we haven't got our Rifts yet. Sort of when this is being recorded, I think literally the last sort of day or so, some have got to the UK.
Yeah.
So we haven't got ours yet. But when we do get it, we're hopefully going to sort of implement everything we can. Like, we love the idea of VR, and
yeah.
So we'll hopefully have all the head tracking and 3D elements and everything set up. But we've also, in the game, designed some of the things around VR, so you can play them perfectly fine using just a monitor and sort of a mouse. But there's the hallucinogenic maze.
Yeah.
So
that's where I am at the moment.
Where sort of sways. Yeah, all right. So you sway side to side, and there's the sand maze. What we want it to feel really claustrophobic, and obviously not being able to test those out yet because we haven't got our developer kit. We don't know how well they work or if they work in the right way, but we have sort of tried to design different elements of the game around the Rift just to enhance the experience with it.
Yeah. I mean, I can imagine it being quite an interesting experience being in it, because I've gone into the sand maze now. Just going down these very tight and claustrophobic tunnels and actually being in there would be quite freaky in a way, actually. I mean, with regards to platforms and things, I mean, what platforms would you be, releasing it on? Are you releasing it on just Mac and PC, or have you got ideas for Xbox and PlayStation? Or?
Currently, it's just Mac and PC. Depending on how much people wanted to pay us, we'd love to do everything else. But it's just, it's just actually getting onto those systems obviously takes a lot of work. And that's sort of obviously a lot of time, and for the minute we just can't do that. We have looked at doing different things like Linux, but again, it's just time, money. So currently we're not planning that. But again, if like the situation were to come up, we'd love to be able to do it. It's just if we can.
Okay, and I mean, obviously, thoughts with regards to that, thoughts about the 720 and the PS4. Is that something you might be looking at developing for in the future, or are you really kind of keeping eyes set on the PC and Mac kind of market first?
Well, really, we're just sort of looking at PC and Mac market at the minute, but obviously, how much the PS4 looks like a PC, like in architecture, that is something what obviously. I know it seems like it would be possibly quite easily to port over. Yeah. But then me saying it's easy, obviously, is like I don't really know anything about it. It could be like masses of work and time and money. So I don't know. I would be excited to try and do something like that. But currently it's sort of just out of our reach, really. And obviously with the 720 being announced next month, we sort of don't know about that yet. But hopefully it's going towards more of a PC setup, and then hopefully it'll be easier for us to develop towards if we wanted to. Yeah, I mean the graphics are looking far too superior really for anything to do with the Ouya. But is there anything that, cause it is aimed at indie developers? Is there anything you might be looking to port or maybe develop something extra for the Ouya in the future? We looked at the Ouya a little while ago. We also looked at another great product called the Game Stick.
Oh yeah.
what's much like the Ouya in the sense of the market and what games it plays, but it's just a USB what you plug into a screen.
Yeah.
So we looked at both of those, but yeah, currently we can't support them because of the hardware.
Yeah.
But if in the future their hardware got better, so it was more like a cheap PC, and if we could get the game to run well on them, sort of, it's always a possibility. But currently we have no plans to do anything like that.
Yeah. Okay. So, do you have any advice for any other kind of budding developers out there? Any advice of what you should and shouldn't do? If you could just drop a kind of word of advice.
The thing what I absolutely hate when everyone says it, but it's really true, is just to do it. So like a lot of people sort of were worried for us, sort of like, so parents and sort of other students and lecturers and things were worried for us when we said that we wanted to just take a year out and make a game. But if we hadn't have done that, sort of, we wouldn't have our game on Steam, and sort of I wouldn't be talking to you now. So
Yeah.
if you really want to do it, and sort of it's a thing you're passionate about, I would just say just go do it. And just sort of go onto forums and read other people's advice and sort of how they got into the industry, or just learn the tools. There's so many free tutorials out there on sort of things like YouTube and stuff. So just learn the tools, and when you feel comfortable with them, just do it.
Yeah. Okay. So, when and where roughly would you say we can get hold of the game? What's the release date and platforms, and where can we pick it up?
So currently we're aiming for Q3 of next year, so 2014 Q3. We're going to be on Steam and other great PC web platforms, like digital distribution platforms. Yeah. And yeah, so that'll be for Mac and PC.
Lovely stuff. Well, thank you very much for talking to us today, Sam. It's been an absolute pleasure, and thank you for letting us have a look at your game. It's absolutely beautiful, and I'm sure everyone can't wait to have a go with it.
Thanks very much.
No problems at all. Thanks for your time. And if you want to check out Dream the Game, you can do so at the Greenlit on Steam or on the website. Links are below. And if you want to get in touch with us, do so at Facebook or Twitter, which is www.facebook.com/thekilobits or @thekilobits. And don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. Thanks for watching.